by thugs who roam the halls and sat in that chair, Mr. Vice President, the one that you vacated at 2:15 this afternoon, sat and posed for pictures, those who were roaming around this chamber. What brought this on? Did this mob spring spontaneously from America? No. This mob was invited to come to Washington on this day by this president for one reason, because he knew the Electoral College vote was going to be counted this day. He wanted this mob to disrupt the constitutional process which we are part of. This mob was inspired by a president who cannot accept defeat. If you wonder whether I'm going too far in what I say,
I can't find myself to give a shit about this.
Just read the transcript with the Secretary of State from Georgia.
Like I'm literally looking for fucks.
And listen to this president's wild conspiracy theories, one after the other.
But just like symbolistic jurisprudence fetishism, or not jurisprudence, but like the symbolic fucking nature, or all these like aesthetic Senate proceedings. Like, I don't care. It's so fucking dumb.
Find the votes he needs. In any other venue, that would be a simple, obvious crime.
This shit sucks, dude.
The lengths he will go to are obvious. The Texas senator says to us, well, many people still agree with him, you know, when it gets down to the bottom line. Many people have fallen for this presidential position that it must have been a rigged election.
I told you, the real psychos are going to come back at night.
Well, I would say that after we've lost count, 57 lawsuits, 62 lawsuits, I've heard so many numbers, after 90 different judges, after this president took his case, the best he could put together, to the highest court in the land across the street, where he has personally chosen 3 justices on the Supreme Court.
You want revolution, not democracy?
I say to the senator from Texas, you know much more about that court than I do.
Sometimes democracy only comes with revolution, but
they even hit the desk before they laughed it out of the court.
What I want is these old fucks
the best
to stop jerking each other off and like move on. Just vote.
No evidence whatsoever of this rigged election and this fraudulence.
Okay.
The senator from Texas says, we just want to create a little commission. 10 days, we're going to audit all the states.
Like, if people talking about how they're so great on both sides of the aisle is democracy for you, if this theater is democracy for you, then yes, you're exactly the type of person that gets duped into thinking that these people have your best interest in mind. They just all are saying the same shit with like platitudes and stories about Abraham Lincoln and blah, blah, blah.
That killed
Just
Reconstruction,
get it over with, dude.
that established Jim Crow, that even after a civil war which tore this nation apart, it re-enslaved African Americans, and it was a commission that invited the voter suppression we are still fighting today in America.
Top of the hour, every hour, 6-second ad break coming right now. Get ready.
The vote we're going to have here.
I got to get up too. Fuck, I got to move around.
Of whether we are going to feed the beast of ignorance, or we are going to tell the truth to the American people. We saw that beast today roaming the halls.
You already know what to do to avoid the ads, baby. Get those primes out, or get your ad block ready to go.
I yield up to 5 minutes to the senator from Kansas.
Here it is.
Senator Marshall.
Senator from Kansas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Freedom of speech and the freedom to protest are provided in our Constitution. And while I share the same frustrations many Americans have over the presidential election, the violence and mob rule which occurred at the U.S. Capitol today and across the country over the past year are unacceptable, and I condemn them at the highest level. And like all of us in the chamber, I'm thankful for the heroic law enforcement officers who worked feverishly to restore order so that we get back to the electoral certification process. During my 29-year career as an obstetrician and gynecologist, too often I had to sit down with patients and give them a very bad diagnosis. It might have been a young mother of 3 who I delivered all 3 of her babies, now with metastatic breast cancer, or perhaps another woman with advanced cervical or ovarian cancer, all with a very challenging prognosis. But before I sat down with each one of those patients, I carefully reviewed all their labs, their x-rays, and their pathology to make sure I had the facts straight.
I wonder what his take is on women's reproductive rights.
It's going to be a recommendation from my heart. I want my fellow Kansans and all Americans to know that I've
From
given
Kansas,
as much
too.
consideration and thought surrounding the issue objecting to a state's electoral college votes as I did considering the treatment plan for a serious health concern. And today's decision, once again, is from my heart. Mr. President, I rise today to restore integrity to our republic. And I rise to join the many of our colleagues who are all concerned for current and future generations. We must restore faith and confidence in one of our republic's most hallowed patriotic duties, voting. There is no question our U.S. Constitution empowers state legislatures to execute free, legal, and fair elections. Unfortunately, in several states, the clear authority of those state legislatures to determine the rules for voting were usurped by governors, secretaries of states, and activist courts. Our laws and Constitution should always be followed, especially in a time of crisis. I don't rise to undo a state's legally obtained electoral college votes. Rather, I rise in hopes of improving the integrity of the ballot to hold states accountable
Holy
to
shit.
the time-proven constitutional system of
CBS News officially reporting that Trump's cabinet members are discussing potentially invoking the 25th Amendment. I don't know if this is like lib shit or not, but
for the removal. This is
the
not
fuck?
news that we
Hold
deliver
up.
lightly, and I want to make clear that what I'm explaining
Breaking
here
news.
is what is being discussed, whispered about among some cabinet members today, and that is whether to move forward with formal proceedings to try to invoke the 25th Amendment. That would allow for the removal of President Trump from office and for Vice President Mike Pence to effectively become commander-in-chief for the remaining days of the Trump presidency. My sources are telling me it has not been formally presented to the vice president. This is not about to happen. It is, however, being discussed right now. The very fact that the highest levels of the U.S. government and cabinet members are discussing this.
bro, they fucking literally did that New York Times op-ed and shit about this a while ago. The anonymous op-ed from that fucking DHS dipshit. Like, I mean...
Is quite
Also, what? Like President Pence? Sick, dude.
newsworthy, quite notable, and it underscores the moment that we are at. I just want to make clear, this is not just political watchers. These are not just Democratic lawmakers who had been speculating all day that this should happen. I'm talking about actual members of the cabinet.
Cabinet resignations are going to be announced soon. Source close to Trump says more resignations are expected in the next 24 hours. Who cares? Like, oh, sick, dude. Slay queens. Like, bro, you literally have blood on your hands aside from this act of terror. Not just this act of terror, but like so many acts of terror that came before this one. Like, y'all are fucking culpable. Putting in your 2 weeks before you're literally out of a job in 2 weeks doesn't change that reality. Let's see what Duckworth
raised
saying.
our right hands. When the 45,000 troops in Arizona raised their right hands and swore to protect and defend the Constitution, we did not qualify our oath by saying that we'd follow orders only when the commander-in-chief was someone whose election we were happy with. Just like when every senator in this chamber was sworn into office, we didn't mutter under our breath that we discharge our duties only when it served our political interests or helped us to avoid the wrath of a petty, insecure, wannabe tin pot dictator on the precipice of losing power and relevance. No, there is no ambiguity here. Joe Biden won the election with a record number of votes. Republican officials nationwide confirmed those results, including in Arizona, as has judge after Trump-appointed judge. Even Trump's attorney general admitted that the United States Department of Justice had not found widespread fraud that would have affected the outcome. Yet still, many of my Republican colleagues are asking us to ignore all of that. With no evidence of their own, they're asking us to ignore court rulings, ignore Republican election officials, and even worse, ignore the will of the people across this vast, great nation.
Bro, listen, when you see this political theater...
They are placing more
Here, I'll just
trust
keep
in
her-
Reddit conspiracy theories over the Constitution.
No, you don't get
proving
more points because she said
that
it.
appeasing Trump is more
let her
important to
finish.
them
Hold on.
than protecting the most basic tenet of our republic, the adherence to free and fair elections. There's one thing I know, It's that my troops didn't sign up to defend our democracy in war zones thousands of miles away, only to watch it crumble in these hallowed halls here at home. Yet that is what this effort amounts to, an attempt to subvert our democracy, and in the process, it is threatening what makes America American. Because in this country, the power of the people has always mattered more than the people in power. That is the ideal that this nation was founded upon. That is why a few patriots threw some tea in Boston Harbor, why Washington crossed the Delaware, why suffragists were arrested a century ago, and why my friend John Lewis crossed that bridge in Selma in 1965. It is why millions spent a Tuesday in November standing in line, braving a pandemic to make their voices heard. Listen, this administration has always had an adversarial relationship with the truth. Trump always cries conspiracy, always foments chaos whenever something doesn't go his way. But today, we here in this chamber have the opportunity to prove that here, in this country, truth matters, that right matters, that the will of the people matters more than the whims of any single powerful individual. I have no tea to throw in Boston Harbor tonight, and I regret that I have no rucksack to pack for my country, no Black Hawk to pilot, nor am I asking for any grand gesture from my Republican colleagues. All that I'm asking of you is to reflect on the oaths that you have sworn, on the damage done to our union today, and on the sacrifices made by those who've given so much to this nation. From the service members at Fort Huachuca and Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, to the marchers who bent America's moral arc a bit more towards justice with every single step that they took, every bridge that they crossed, then ask yourself whether the democracy they were willing to bleed for, the country that each of us in this chamber has sworn to defend, is worth damaging in order to protect the porcelain ego of a man who treats the Constitution as if it were little more than a yellowing piece of paper.
The problem
I think
is,
we all know the right answer.
a lot of this criticism revolves around like Republicans operating in a way that is like to defend Donald Trump and like to not fucking hurt his ego.
President, I yield.
When in fact that's not the problem. The problem is the defense that Republicans and a lot of Democrats engage in to defend not only Trump but the current order, the status quo. That is what the problem is.
Right. Chaos, anarchy. The violence today was wrong and un-American. The vote we are about to cast is incredibly important. Now more than ever, the question is, should Congress override the certified results from the states?
Remember, he earlier admitted on Fox News that the Electoral College benefits Republicans. Why would you ever want to remove it? We'll never win an election ever again.
Overturn elections. We've been told that this is a protest. Well, this is about an electoral commission. No, it's not. It's about whether to seat the electors that have been certified by a state.
Did Twitch just remove PogChamp because he's oh no, because he went alt-right.
This is about overturning a state certified election.
I think that emote is, yeah, he's been like radicalized on the internet during COVID, and like literally went from like a COVID denier. I don't know what he tweeted out today, but it doesn't matter though. That fucking face is like transcended the person itself. It's gone way beyond Pog and PogChamp and Poggers and things of that nature are they've taken a life of its own. It has nothing to do with the creator, the original creator. It has nothing to do with Gutex. Most people don't even know that the creator himself that spam it.
To devolve the power of selecting presidential electors to the states. The Electoral College is, without question, an inseparable friend to those who believe that every American across our vast country deserves to be heard. If Congress were to give the power to overturn the state's election, What terrible chaos would ensue every 4 years? Imagine the furor against the Electoral College if Congress becomes a forum to overturn states' Electoral College slates. It's one thing to be angry. It's another to focus one's anger in constructive ways. That hasn't happened today, to say the least. We simply cannot destroy the Constitution, our laws, and the Electoral College in the process. I hope as the nation's anger cools, we can channel that energy into essential electoral reforms at the state level. America's admired around the world for our free elections. We absolutely must fix this mess and restore confidence and integrity to our elections. We must.
Democratic leader.
Senator from Virginia, Senator.
Yeah, it's this tweet.
Senator from Virginia.
Mr. President,
he went full tilt.
I think like most of us, I'm still pretty reeling from what happened today. What I was going to talk about was...
Okay, shut up. I don't care. Oh, my God. Ay, ay, ay. We made the decision to remove the PogChamp emote following statements in the face of the emote encouraging further violence after what took place on the Capitol today. We want the sentiment and use of Pog to live on. Its meaning is much bigger than the person depicted or image itself, and it has a big place in Twitch culture. However, we can't in good conscience continue to enable the use of the image. We will work with the community to design a new emote for the most hype moments on Twitch. Yeah. I mean, it's not cringe, dude. I totally get why they did that. Are you fucking kidding me? That doesn't mean I'm going to stop using it. But because the emote itself is like completely fucking transcended. It completely transcended like the person itself that was originally the face of the emote, which has got to be weird in and of itself. But yeah, it totally makes sense, dude. What are you, crazy? Like, he was literally, I mean, they are basically admitting it themselves. The person, a lot of these emotes that you see on Twitch are emotes of people's faces. They're cherished, loved content creators. Trihex, a friend of the show, famous for the tryhard emote, which I do not use, but there are global emotes that Twitch themselves have created from some of the oldest content creators on the platform. Total Biscuit is Lil W. And basically, after today's like takes from the face of the emote, from what Gutek said, I assume that they that's the reason why they banned it, which is understandable. I mean, it is understandable that happened. Having said that, though, like, if you asked 1,000 Twitch users, like, what the fuck, who is the PogChamp emote named after, they would not know. They wouldn't know that it's, like, Gutex. Just like they would not know that it's, how he, like, went off the deep end, kind of. And it happened recently, too. His radicalization happened literally during the course of COVID. It's kind of sad. But the emote itself is still, of course, cherished, celebrated. I love using it. Like, Pago is a big part of this community. Pago Palum. You won't be able to use PogChamp, which I'm sure Twitch will try to come up with a different face for it. But we will probably still keep using the Pog variations on this channel, like Poggers. Let's be real. Isn't this cancel culture? Not really. Did he go off the deep end? No, he went off the deep end. He's not a grifter. I don't think he's a grifter. I think he's a legitimate believer. Oh, shit, hold on.
Out. And I just want to acknowledge that when it comes to violence, this has been a terrible year in America this last year. We've seen a lot of violence against law enforcement, and today we saw it here in the capital of the United States. And in this country, in the United States of America, we cannot say emphatically enough, violence is not how you achieve change. Violence is not how you achieve something better. Our Constitution was built and put into place so that there would be, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, no appeal from ballots to bullets.
If you gave me
which is what we saw,
$1,000
unfortunately, attempted
and
tonight.
asked
There's
me
no place for that.
if
in the
this
United
was
States
Josh
of America.
Hawley
And
or
that's
Tom
why I
Cotton,
submit to my colleagues that what we're doing
I'd be
here
short of
tonight
$1,000
is actually very
almost
important.
every time. I'm
Because for those
sorry.
who have
I know this is
concerns
Josh
about the
Hawley,
integrity of our elections, those who have
but they
concerns
are
about what
literally
happened
the
in
same
November,
person, dude.
This is the
Like,
appropriate.
tell me that they're
this
not
is
the same
lawful
person, dude.
Place where those objections and
They have that
concerns
fucking
should be
long
heard.
neck, or not
This
long neck,
is the
that long
forum that the
fucking
law
white guy
provides for
head.
Our laws provide
Like-
for those concerns to be registered.
Like
not
a
through
like a Team
violence,
Fortress looking, Team
not by
Fortress
appealing
character
for
looking
ballots
Andy
and
over here.
bullets, but here in this lawful process.
It's just so hard to distinguish,
those
dude.
who
And
say
their
that
behavior
this
is
is just a
exactly the same, even though they are technically
today,
on the opposite sides of this battle
an
this time
antique
around.
ceremony that we've engaged in for a couple of hundred years. I can't say that I agree. I can't say that our precedents suggest that. I actually think it's very vital what we do. The opportunity to be heard, to register objections is very vital because this is the place where those objections are to be heard and dealt with, debated, and finally resolved. In this lawful means, peacefully, without violence, without attacks, without bullets. And so, Mr. President, let me just say now briefly, in lieu of speaking about it later, a word about Pennsylvania, which is a state that I have been focused on, objected to, as an example of why people are concerned, millions of Americans concerned about our election integrity. The state of Pennsylvania, quite apart from allegations of any fraud, you have a state constitution that has been interpreted for over a century to say that there is no mail-in balloting permitted except for in very narrow circumstances that's also provided for in the law. And yet, last year, Pennsylvania elected officials passed a whole new law that allows universal mail-in balloting and did it irregardless of what the Pennsylvania Constitution said. And then when Pennsylvania citizens tried to go and be heard on this subject before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, they were dismissed on grounds of procedure, timeliness, in violation of that Supreme Court's own precedent. So the merits of the case have never been heard. The constitutionality of the statute actually has never been defended. I'm not aware of any court that has passed on its constitutionality. Actually, I'm not aware of anybody who's defended the constitutionality. And this was the statute that governed this last election, in which there are over 2.5 million mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania. This is my point, that this is the forum. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court hasn't heard the case. There's no other court to go to hear the case in the state. And so this is the appropriate place for these concerns to be raised, which is why I have raised them here today. And I hope that this body will not miss the opportunity to take affirmative action to address the concerns of so many millions of Americans, to say to millions of Americans tonight that violence is never warranted, that violence will not be tolerated, that those who engage in it will be prosecuted, but that this body will act to address the concerns of all Americans across the country. We do need an investigation into irregularities, fraud. We do need a way forward together. We need election security reforms.
President Trump and
I
Rudy
bet my
Giuliani
friends
are
on the
calling
other side of the aisle
senators
don't
and
disagree
urging them to
with
push
that.
ahead with the protest of
We need to find a way to move forward
president.
on that together.
Yeah,
so
I
that the
think you
American
missed the
people
boat on that one,
from
brother.
both parties, all walks of life, can have confidence in their elections and that we can arrange ourselves under the rule of law that we share together. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Wait, so did he object? I'm confused.
Democratic leader.
Senator from Pennsylvania, Mr. Casey.
Senator from Pennsylvania.
Did anybody pay attention? I was struck by how average he is, and I couldn't pay attention. Did he object or? Oh, he said he will object. They will vote after this, but yes. Oh man. Oh baby.
Who voted in this election, and to condemn in the strongest possible terms this attempt to disenfranchise the voters of Pennsylvania based upon a lie, a falsehood.
You can't take it back. Like, but
that same lie.
Does he feel bad about
the
it?
Seeds of today's violence.
He wanted to object, but he wasn't expecting to be at work for so long today.
Here in the Capitol.
Come on, dude. I want Trump's voters, but like not that bad. You know, I gotta go home.
Susan from the Lehigh Valley, the community of our state where Senator Toomey lives, recently wrote to my office and perhaps said it best. She said, and I quote, "We cannot allow anybody to overturn the legal votes of the citizens of Pennsylvania.
Want to feel
This
old?
would be the
It's still
ultimate
today.
destruction of our democracy," unquote.
Bro,
Susan had it right. We cannot allow
we are literally,
anybody, and she put that word in all caps.
Sorry, boring guy. I don't care. Listen, we are 6 days into the year, okay? Just a reminder that we are only 6 days into 2021. 6 days. For those of you who thought 2021 was going to be better than the last year, like, I'm letting you know, probably not. Okay? Doesn't seem like it. Is 2020 version 2 Electric Boogaloo? Israel is bombing Syria. The MAGA chuds have finally reached the final level where they're just like literally storming the halls of Congress. 2020 looks like a fucking journalist mode in comparison to 2021 so far. It looks like a tutorial mission where we were trying to get ready. Literally fucking super COVID is taken over in the UK and is also is infinitely more infectious, by the way, is taking over Colorado and California as far as we know. And nearly 4,000 people are dying every day from COVID. So you should have been warned when the boss music came on. When the clock struck midnight on December 31st, where the boss music started, you were like, haha, it's nothing. You know, hey, we were too busy celebrating. Turns out, if 2020 was Nameless King, this is DLC.
The FBI, the Secret Service, who face the most difficult challenges,
I'm
did their duty
throw
with
up.
confidence and strength. Many of them are injured right now. And it also extends to this chamber, where both Democrats and Republicans showed courage, calm, and resolve. I'd like to recognize the members now who helped to hold the line. Mark Wayne Mullen, Tony Gonzalez, Jason Crow, Pat Fallon, and Troy Nels. Working with the Capitol Police, they ensured the floor of this chamber was never breached.
Wait, what? They didn't hold shit, bro. What the fuck do you mean?
Thank you for this sign of courage.
Yeah, did they die, dude? They didn't hold nothing. We saw Mark Wayne literally peeing in his pants. Right there. I'm pointing to it with the mouse. He was standing right in front of that pew motherfucker as he was peeing his pants, dude.
Looking back on the past few hours, it is clear this Congress will not be the same after today. And I hope it will be the better. I hope not just this institution, but I hope every American pauses for that moment and thinks among themselves.
Is that Germa?
That we can disagree with one another, but not dislike each other. We can respect the voices of others. There's many times we debate on this body, and we should.
Christ, dude.
There's many times we can get heated. I still consider Steny Hoyer a very good friend. There's times I get upset. I'll call him at home to express what things I may not see fair or just. But that's the way we should handle things. The majority leader is right. We are all Americans first. But should we also think for a moment, what do we put on social media? What do we convey to one another? Just because you have a personal opinion different than mine, you have a right to say it.
Oh my God!
But nobody has a right to.
Oh my
become a
God!
mob.
I'm giving out my address to the Trump supporters so they can come and kill me instead in a video game.
Together.
That's it. I would rather do that than listen to Kevin McCarthy talk about having a difference in opinion in the aftermath
We
of
solve
literally
problems before our nation,
Trump
not through
supporters literally
destruction,
storming
but
the
through
fucking.
debate. That is the heart of this democracy.
Holding a siege
I know what we
in
debate
Congress.
today is tough. but it's just, it's right. This isn't the first side of the aisle
This is
that's ever
insanity.
debated this issue. I thought what Madam Speaker said back in 2005, this is democracy at its best, when they talked about a presidential election in Ohio. These are the moments.
No, this is the House. I flipped over to the House to see if it was more fun.
And accountability and accuracy in our elections. But you know what we should do, the next difference? Not just raise the issue, but work together to solve the problems. Now is the moment.
I'll die if I hear Mitt Romney talk about
unprecedented attack against our democracy. Fairly or not, they'll be remembered for their role in the shameful episode in American history. That will be their legacy. I salute Senator Langford and Loeffler and Braun and Daines, and I'm sure others, who in the light of today's outrage
Trump has
have
banned
withdrawn their
Pence's Chief
objection.
of Staff Mark Short from the White
For
House
any
today.
who remain insistent on an audit in order to satisfy the many people who believe that the
Top White
election
House
was stolen,
advisors are thinking about
I'd offer
resigning.
this perspective. No congressional audit is ever going to convince these voters, particularly when the president will continue to say that the election was stolen. The best way we can show respect for the voters who are upset is by telling them the truth.
The woman who died today was the woman who shot dead in D.C. today used QAnon phrases like the storm, dark to light in a tweet yesterday. She was a QAnon follower. Photos have surfaced. According to Travis View, who is a QAnonymous host of the QAnonymous podcast, Ashley Babbitt, the San Diego Air Force veteran who died today after Capitol Police shot her inside the Capitol building, had previously tweeted a picture of herself wearing a We Are Q shirt with a fellow QAnon follower. This shit has real consequences. It does. It's kind of sad. I don't know if she was a mom or not, but yeah, local San Diego media has confirmed her identity. KUSI News confirms identity of woman shot and killed inside a U.S. Capitol as Ashley Babbitt, a 14-year veteran who served 4 tours of the U.S. Air Force and was a high-level security official throughout her time in service. Her husband says she was a strong supporter of President Trump and was a great patriot to all who knew her. Metropolitan Police Department says an investigation into her death continues. KUSI sends our condolences to the family and friends who knew her. Yeah, the lady who got fucking shot while trying to climb into the window, in through the window, was shot and killed by cops. A great patriot. Yeah, exactly. In one of the brief moments of officers not being so gentle and actually being really, I mean, they should not have done that. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter how fucking brainwashed they are. It doesn't matter if they're trying to storm the halls of Congress. Like, no one deserves to get killed, especially like that. They're calling her a martyr? Yeah, because they're fucking freaks that are broken-brained, who also are probably going to get killed in a similar capacity if they keep this shit up. I don't know what else to say.
Spurred by rhetoric coming from those who are looking out for themselves, not country. And it is stunning, Madam Speaker, that there are some in this House who have voiced support for what happened. It was not a protest. It was treason. It was sedition. And it should be prosecuted as such. At its root is a disease that has infected our politics, one that will make some political leaders do anything, including lie and incite violence to hold on to power. That's what we're seeing before our very eyes. In contesting the outcome of this election, my Republican colleagues make contradictory argument that puts party and power before country. They argue the election results were valid when it showed they won their races, but the same ballots were somehow fraudulent when it produced a result President Trump
They're literally fucking arguing over the Arizona objection, dude. It's like...
did not like. Keep the results we like, they demand. Cancel. Here's the truth. Arizona has a long bipartisan record of conducting safe, secure, and fair elections. And I say that as someone whose party has more often than not been on the losing end of those elections. This last election was once again safe and secure. And I commend our state and county election officials, public servants on both sides of the aisle for making Arizona proud once again. We are here because
we're going to move on to Tucker Carlson's absolutely batshit banana boat crazy segment from tonight, where he basically takes the blame away from Trump supporters and says that it's the liberals who have been inciting violence. Let's take a look.
Images of what has taken place in Washington. Too little time has been spent thinking about why. Anyone who's trying to understand the significance of what's going on right now ought to watch the video of the woman who was shot.
Okay, dude. Come on, dude.
Inside the U.S. Capitol this afternoon. In the footage, which we're not going to show you because it's too upsetting, but you can find it on the internet, the woman is standing in a hallway right off the House floor at the center of the Capitol building. She appears to be in her 20s. She's got an American flag tied around her neck. The scene around her is chaotic. People are bumping into each other, yelling, trying to get through the door into the Senate chamber. Suddenly, with no warning...
Bro, she literally died because of you. Like, her blood is on your hands, Tucker. It's people like you that have gotten these people whipped up in a fucking frenzy of lies and madness and do your own research mentality, from all the way from your show down to the fucking psychotic QAnon radicalization that occurs on Facebook, where a woman, a 14-year Air Force veteran with a high security clearance apparently, finds herself flying from fucking San Diego to motherfucking Washington, D.C. to storm the halls of Congress and gets clapped while she's climbing a fucking barricade. If there is anyone who is responsible for this, it's Republican politicians and the Republican media apparatus that have elevated these psychotic claims and at every step of the way used it to their advantage because they thought that it would provide them electoral success. If you organize around psychotic conspiratorial ramblings, if you consistently defend conspiracy theorists on the virtue of freedom of speech, despite the fact that they are legitimately damaging the marketplace of ideas by lying routinely, then you are responsible. What the fuck were you expecting?
There is gunfire. You hear a shot, and the woman falls. She's been hit with a bullet. Seems like the neck could be the chest. Apparently it was fired by someone in law enforcement. People in the hallway scream. The camera closes in on the woman's face. She looks stunned. She is staring straight ahead, unblinking. In her eyes, you can see that she knows she's about to die, which in the end she did. The woman died a couple of hours ago at a local hospital. So what can we learn from this? It's not enough to call it a tragedy. Imagine for a second getting the call and learning that was your daughter. The last time you spoke to her, she was heading to Washington for a political rally. Now she's dead. You'll never talk to her again. Seriously, imagine that. If you have children, it will put you in the right frame of mind. That's what we're watching. And we may be watching a lot.
Yeah, you imagine that. And the fucking anger that you should feel as a father or as a loved one, as a husband, is towards Donald Trump. Is towards those who fucking led her astray. Is towards those who said that they were preaching the truth when they put them in this position of desperation. Okay? Those are the people responsible for it. She doesn't know any better. I'm sorry. She's too fucking stupid. Okay? Yeah, I am belittling a person who just recently got executed in the hands of the police. She's too dumb because she believes in QAnon conspiracies. Okay? Sorry. That's the fucking hard truth. And the same goes for your parents too. And the same goes for your loved ones as well. Why do I always tell you, no matter how far gone they are, do not abandon your loved ones. Try to keep in contact with them because they've gone off the fucking deep end, but you can still save them because that isolation is a big part of the reason why they go further and further into those conspiracies. Okay? But the people that know better and the people that willingly and purposefully spread misinformation, this poison that these psychos mainline. Those are the people who are responsible for her brainwashing. Those are the people who are responsible for her dying. Those are the people who have blood on their hands. And Tucker Carlson absolutely is one of those people.
A lot more of it in the coming days. Political violence begets political violence. That is always true. It is an iron law. It never changes.
Yeah, now he's going to turn it around to Antifa. Antifa is the real reason why the fascists and the psychopaths, the QAnon supporters became violent.
Changes.
Watch.
And we have to be against that. No matter who commits the violence or under what pretext. No matter how many self-interested demagogues assure us the violence is justified or necessary, as they have been assuring us, lying to us for the past 6 months. We have a duty to oppose all of this. Not simply because political violence kills other people's children, which...
This motherfucker defended Kyle Rittenhouse, bro. I mean, he defended Kyle Rittenhouse. He has criticized Black Lives Matter over and over and over again. He has no sympathy for black causes of equality and justice that pertain in some respects to a larger percentage of black people, I guess, because police brutality is not an issue that simply only affects black and brown communities. It affects poor white people as well. But Tucker doesn't care about that. What did he say? He didn't. Anyway, let's keep going.
But because in the end, it doesn't work. No good person will live a happier life because that girl was killed in the hallway of the Capitol today. So our only option as a practical matter is to fix what is causing this in the first place. We don't have a choice. You may have nothing in common with the people on the other side of the country. Increasingly, you probably don't. But you're stuck with them. The idea that groups of Americans will somehow break off into separate, peaceful nations of like-minded citizens, that's a fantasy. That will not happen. There is no such thing as a peaceful...
Kind of a weird take from a dude who literally wants to have a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant ethno-state, like...
Peaceful separation. There never has been, and there won't be. The two hemispheres of this country are inseparably intertwined. They are co-joined twins. Neither can leave without killing the other. So that's the first thing to know. As horrifying as this moment is, we have no option but to make it better, to gut it out. The second thing to consider, and it's related to the first, is why the woman who was killed today went to the rally in the first place. We don't know anything about her, but she did not look particularly radical. She bore no resemblance to the angry...
Bro, she literally was wearing QAnon garb, dude. Shut the fuck up. If I could fucking find this information off of Twitter and a fucking San Diego local newspaper that confirmed it, you can too. She's literally a QAnon supporter. Unless you are unironically claiming that being a QAnon supporter is not an indication that you are a radical person, which Tucker Carlson very well might as well be saying. I don't know. I mean, he is a fucking complete psychopath. So maybe he is saying that. The person who got killed today was tweeting about save the children. I could have met this person at the fucking Cuties rally and not know it because when I went to the Netflix Cuties rally. Ashley Babbitt, the San Diego Air Force veteran who died today after Capitol Police shot her inside the Capitol building. It's an unacceptable level, no matter what their political perspective is. That level of police brutality is unacceptable. I'm sorry. She's storming into the Capitol building? Certainly. Why didn't they kill all 1,000 of the people that stormed in? Clearly, they were able to de-escalate, and clearly they were able to deal with the matter without killing people, right? Obviously, taking photos with them is unacceptable, but what's infinitely less acceptable is killing one of them, okay? When I criticize police for the way that they deal with black protesters during Black Lives Matter, and then I compare it to how they dealt with these hogs, these terrorists that fucking stormed the Capitol building, I'm not making that comparison to say, why don't you fucking kill these people? Or why don't you fucking beat the shit out of these people like you did with the black people protesting? I'm saying that because they should de-escalate conflict with black people protesting as well. Of course, I'm not asking them to take selfies with the BLM protesters. But it's still unacceptable that she was shot and killed. Sorry. Unacceptable. Yet another instance of police brutality. But many relatively well-off white people, or delusional white people, and black people too sometimes when they are conservative, mostly just conservatives though, make that trade-off where they believe that the police are killing the bad guys and keeping society safe. So sometimes a couple good guys, a couple patriots get killed along the way, and that's just collateral damage. It's gonna happen. But ultimately, they are separating the good guys from the bad guys, so it's acceptable. It's not acceptable. Anyway, regardless, stop trying to justify fucking killing someone who's storming a Capitol building. I don't care if it's a black person doing it. I don't care if it's a white person doing it. I don't care what their background is. It's still fucking ridiculous. The real problem in that circumstance is the fact that they were allowed in to the halls of Congress to begin with. The real problem in that circumstance is that there were 4 barricades they basically opened up. The real problem in that circumstance was National Guard was not deployed ahead of time to do a show of force to make sure that this conflict never even escalated to that point. I don't know why it did. I don't know what kind of decisions were made, or lack thereof, rather. What allowed people to think that having 100,000 Trump supporters get agitated outside of the halls of Congress by being goaded into doing acts of violence by the literal fucking president, just like he has agitated them for the past 4 years, was going to prove to be a peaceful gathering. I don't know why you thought that. Everyone knew what was going to happen. And yet they didn't take the necessary precautions. That's bullshit, man. That's the real fault there. That's the real problem. The fact that not a single one of these people got arrested is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. How the fuck are you drawing comparisons here? I respect your consistency, but I disagree with you. You disagree with me on what? Does she deserve to get killed? No, I don't think she deserved to get killed. 13 arrests, ladies and gentlemen. 13 arrests were conducted today. 13. Cops detained 13 black kids when they're looking for, like, someone who engaged in grand larceny on an off day. 10,000 hogs stormed the Capitol building, break in, fight cops, steal government, like, classified information, take photos of classified information left on laptops and shit. 13 arrests. Don't tell me there's not fucking white privilege in this country, dude. Come on. Now, I know some of those people that were there were black. I know. They were fighting for a white-ass cause. Okay? Last night, the people of Georgia elected the 11th African-American senator in the entire history of the United States. Not this year, not this past year. The 11th. The 11th black senator in the entire history of the United States. Come on. Come the fuck on, dude. People love to immediately run to say, hey, well, there's not that many black people in America. They only make 13% of the population, Hassan. Senate's not supposed to be proportional representation. But even if it was, your argument does not stand. That's 0.07% of all senators throughout history, motherfucker. Not 13% of senators. Was it 0.26? My bad. Throughout history, chat. Throughout history. Anyway. Regardless. So yeah, we got here because Tucker Carlson said that she was not radical. That's a lie. She was. Unfortunately, like millions of others, she found herself believing the dumb shit that she saw on her timeline. Some of you have relatives just like her. Luckily, maybe they're not so far gone that they fucking flew out. Some of you have literally relatives that did fly out to DC. Some of you know people that flew out. Even I know fucking people that flew out. And I got no immediate or distant relatives that believe in Trump or like Trump. I'm very fortunate that way. Possibly because a lot of them are Turkish. Almost all of them. These people are all around us. They're not like a couple random violent extremists. They're all around us. That's the union plumber that comes to your house. You know? That's the guy who owns the fucking used car dealership down the street. They're your dads, they're your brothers, they're your wives, they're your sisters. They're all around us. Don't let like Republicans trying to make it seem like this is just an aberration and an anomaly. When in fact, this is the logical conclusion of many years of white grievance politics and racial agitprop that Republicans have utilized to win elections. Paired up with the insane, insatiable thirst for profits that companies like Facebook and YouTube have. So they just unload on these rabbit holes. They open up the floodgates on radicalizing boomers and even Zoomers with as much psychotic misinformation as possible because it profits them. It increases time spent on the platform. So, hey, that's good. That's a lot of ad dollars, baby. Saying that these are random, or not random, but like saying that these are extremists, violent extremists that are not necessarily regular old folk shows that you don't understand regular old folk. They are responsible for it too, and especially Tucker Carlson.
Angry children we have seen again and again wrecking our cities. Pasty, entitled nihilists dressed in black, setting fires, spray painting slogans on statues. She didn't look like that. The woman in the Capitol...
Yeah, those are the real radicals. What Tucker is saying is she wasn't black, okay? That's what he's saying. Like, you know, come on, she wasn't Antifa, she wasn't black. Doesn't look like a radical.
Did not look particularly radical. She bore no resemblance to the angry children we have seen again and again wrecking our cities. Pasty, entitled...
Yeah, because it's okay to kill those, right? You fucking piece of shit.
Nihilists dressed in black, setting fires, spray painting slogans on statues. She didn't look like that. The woman in the Capitol hallway looked pretty much like everyone else. So why was she there on a Wednesday? Why were any of them there today? We ought to think about that. If you want to fix it, you have to think about that. The only reason this country is rich and successful is because for hundreds of years we have enjoyed a stable political system. And the only reason that system is stable is because it's a democracy. It responds to voters. Democracy is our pressure relief valve. As long as people sincerely believe they can change things by voting, they stay calm. They don't storm the Bastille. They don't burst into the House chamber. They talk and they organize and they vote.
I mean, yeah, that's true. So why were they there? Because one man decided that democracy just means like I win every time. And because Republicans have been running that line for so fucking long that it's stuck. How many segments do you think Tucker Carlson dedicated on this election cycle alone to election integrity? How many hours did Tucker Carlson spend lying about how our elections are fundamentally broken? And not because of the Electoral College. That is a fundamental flaw. Not because the Senate is literally unjust. That the Senate, the injustice built in, the inequalities built into the Senate. Lindsey Graham is speaking. Okay, we'll get back to Tucker Carlson in a second. Tucker Carlson very much contributed to the lies, just like every other Republican did.
And Florida sent 2 slate of electors. They had 2 governments, by the way, and we didn't know what to do. Why did South Carolina, Florida, and Louisiana do it? To hold the country hostage to end Reconstruction. It worked. The commission was 8-7. It didn't work. Nobody.
I don't know why you guys want me to fucking watch this clown ass dude. I don't know. I don't care.
Me out. The rest is history. It led to Jim Crow. If you're looking for historical guidance, this is not the one to pick. If you're looking for a way to convince people there was no fraud, having a commission chosen by Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and John Roberts is not going to get you to where you want to go. It ain't going to work. So it's not going to do any good. It's going to delay, and it gives credibility to a dark chapter of our history. That's why I'm not with you. But I will fight to my death for you. You're able to object. You're not doing anything wrong. Other people have objected. I just think it's a uniquely bad idea to delay this election. Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it to end this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful. But when the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that they didn't violate the Constitution of Wisconsin, I agree with the 3, but I accept the 4. If Al Gore can accept 5-4, he's not president. I can accept Wisconsin 4-3. Pennsylvania, it went to the Second Circuit. So much for all the judges being in Trump's pocket. They said, no, you're wrong.
He was a literal Federalist Society judge that overturned
Trump's lawsuit wasn't right. Georgia, they said the Secretary of State took the law in his own hands. He changed the election laws unlawfully. A federal judge said, no, I accept the federal judge even though I don't agree with it. Fraud. They said there's 66,000 people in Georgia under 18 voted. How many people believe that? I asked, give me 10. I hadn't had one. They said 8,000 felons.
No, they don't realize the grift has gone too far, my friend. It's that it's over. Like, they knew the grift had gone too far a long time ago. They just didn't care. But it's like, literally, the time is done now. They just don't have time.
We got to end it. Vice President Pence, what they're asking you to do, you won't do because you can't. You talk about interesting times. I associate myself with Rand Paul. How many times will you hear that? The mob has done something nobody else could do to get me and Rand to agree. Rand is right. If you're a conservative, this is the most offensive concept in the world, that a single person could disenfranchise 155 million people. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be president. Where in there does it say Mike can say, I don't like the results? I want to send them back to the states. I believe there was fraud. To the conservatives who believe in the Constitution.
Yeah, where the fuck was this a month ago, you dipshit? This is why it's so frustrating. All of these fucking crooks and liars literally stood back and kept their fucking mouths shut when Trump was running his goddamn mouth, radicalizing the people, nonstop.
They said,
None
"We
of them
count on
demonstrated the
Mike." All
courage
of us can
of
count
like
on
literally
the
being
Vice
like,
President.
come on, you
You're
had
gonna do the
4
right
fucking
thing. You're
years,
gonna do the
but it's
constitutional
time to
thing.
go.
You got a son who flies F-35s. You got a son-in-law who flies F-18s. They're out there flying.